Good morning and welcome. Also,
Good morning.
My name is Vasudha, not Vasudeva, but I'm glad you made these mistakes, so I won't. So thank you for taking one for the team. And your energy and enthusiasm is so contagious. And I think you're absolutely right. We were all made to write these essays when we were in school about technology, whether it's a boon or a curse. And I think we were very much led to believe that it is kind of a curse because we start to think of tradition being something that's opposite to technology, and we need to preserve tradition, or we'll lose it if technology comes in. But that is absolutely not the case, and we've seen that now, especially during this pandemic. The future is truly here. And we've learned as people, as nations, that we've become so reliant on the tech industry. And with that, we've also become so much more aware of online spaces and their true potential. In 2020, we saw that 14% of total investments were in deep tech industry, which is 11% more than in 2019. And out of this, 87% was in artificial intelligence, machine learning technology. So bearing that in mind, we have a pioneering and innovative group of panelists here to talk about how Internet of Things and artificial intelligence are the perfect partners to boost business productivity. Welcome, panelists. Thank you for joining us here at BW. So maybe we can start with everyone briefly introducing themselves, tell us about your business and how you are using IoTs and AI in your respective ventures. Can we start with Avneet?
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. This is Avneet Singh Marwah. I'm the CEO of Plastronics. We have two television brands in India, Kodak Televisions and Thomson Televisions. And we have Thomson Appliances as well in India. So both the brands are top 3 online brands currently, and Thomson is exclusive on Flipkart, and Kodak is available on both the platforms. So I'll just start. We are today on a very interesting topic, that's AI. So for smart TV, I think the biggest disruption that has happened in last 4 years were basically for smartphones, for consumer products. Now that will be shifting to the bigger screen, that's your smart TV. And AI will be one of through AI. One of the biggest screens of your homes will be connected to all your smart home devices. So TV, like if you're watching a movie, you want to switch on, off, or make your movie mode lights, everything will be through your voice. And as I always tell, that a voice will be your new UI for televisions. That's for AI and IoT. I'll just have a brief about our company. We are right now available in more than 18,000 PIN codes, our televisions. We have about 350 company-owned service centers with about 220 service center tie-ups in India. We are one of the best warehousing and logistics suppliers for online television company. And our vision is now to expand our AI technology. Our platform partner is Google, and we were the first Indian manufacturing company to have a tie-up with Google Android TV. So we are expanding on products that are completely based out of Indian R&D centers. So that's our vision.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Krupesh, would you like to take the
Sure. Hi, good morning, everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes,
my name is Krupesh Bhat. I'm the founder of SignDesk. This is my second startup in India. What we do at SignDesk is basically we are on a mission to eliminate the papers from offices, whether it's your typical agreements, contracts, or it's your onboarding documents, such as your KYC documents, the application forms, anything. So we primarily work with the financial institutions as we're going through a huge fintech revolution in India right now, where typically the banks and financial institutions use our technology platform to digitally onboard their users using some kind of a video KYC and artificial intelligence, the based facial recognition techniques. So that obviously there is no need to have your the produce your physical papers or a KYC document. And we'll also take the journey forward, to execute documents in agreements and contracts, things like that. We typically use electronic signatures, either Aadhaar or non-Aadhaar. And we also, we are the first one, the first company in India to completely digitize the stamp duty payment, which is an essential part of contract execution. So everything is digital. So in a matter of a couple of minutes, you can stamp the document and you can sign the document, and then you can do the video KYC. So all of that, typically, which used to take anywhere from 2 to 5 days, and with the bundle of paper, and now everything is digital. That's what we do. And in terms of the AI and IoT, like I said, in case of in the digital onboarding piece, we use quite a bit of AI piece. Obviously some of these devices have to be IoT enabled. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Rajesh?
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
We started Intellicus Technologies in 2004 around with the idea of bringing in BI and analytics to start with. Eventually, we moved on to machine learning and AI-based analytics, and IoT came our way. Although we serve enterprise customers, all the major enterprise, in the fintech segment, retail segment, we have many customers who have implemented BI using Intellicus. But our very important aspect of our business is we are OEM partners for many of these IoT enablers in the industry. So to name some of the established players in this segment are PTC, who work very closely with the supply chain of service parts. They work with major aircraft manufacturers in the automobile segment. We have the same kind of agreement with Schneider Electric. They establish data centers, and they have to create this control and command center for monitoring every aspect of the data center, including what temperature is running and what humidity is running and how the machines are performing. Now we provide the dashboards once they collect the data. So they build the dashboards using Intellicus platform to give immediate alerts as well as analytics. We can discuss that over time. And also we work with companies like Veracity, which are working in the public sector segment. Means they are taking up public safety projects as well as smart city projects. So we are a similar OEM partner with them also. So we have this wide variety of experience in working of analyzing the IoT data. This is one, and also we are working with a lot of startups, including companies like eFleet, which are funded by large automobile ancillary companies, to innovate in India how IoT can optimize the operations. That's what we are, and happy to meet you all today.
Thank you so much. I will have to get back to you about how you're using IoT to optimize. But before we do, Suhale, would you like to talk about your venture?
Sure, Vasudha. Hi. My name is Suhale Kapoor. So I'm a co-founder of Absolutdata-Analytics. Absolute is a provider of analytics and AI products and services. We have an evolution which is closely linked to the evolution of AI, actually. We started out in the early 2000s. At that time, BPO was the hot word, but people weren't really experienced working with companies out of India to provide higher value-add services such as analytics. So we were one of the first pioneers in that space. And that's when the word KPO kind of was coined around that time. And since then, as insights have moved into recommendations, as analytics has moved towards AI, so has our firm. And I'll be telling you some stories about that today. We were recently acquired by a company called Infogain, which is a digital transformation company backed by Chris Capital. And I think some of the mega trends that we're seeing today around AI and analytics, around cloud, around digital, Infogain is a very good example of how large IT players are embracing all of those various functions through homegrown building capabilities or through acquisitions. So we are now part of the Infogain family through this whole AI analytics quest on their part. In terms of what we do mainly, our focus is mainly on marketing and sales and customer analytics. So using everything from building data marts to the whole ETL layer, but really focusing on modeling and then providing recommendations through either data scientists, data engineers, or now through a platform, which more and more clients are adopting, which we call Navic. So we actually deploy platforms in client situations. Earlier, they were known as recommendation models or something only used by large e-commerce companies like Amazon. These were the pioneers, but now through platforms like this, we're able to democratize insights and recommendations through a company, whether it's a large company or a startup. So that's in a nutshell, Absolute Data.
All right, thank you so much. Well, it sounds like all of you are using AI technology. All of you are at the forefront of this, and you're also, it's not just one type of customer. You have various types of customers across the board. And keeping this in mind, I wanted to ask my second question, which is about privacy and regulations. Now, in India, there aren't any specific laws related to artificial intelligence or data or machine learning. And is this something that you're concerned with? Because there is a demand for these laws. People are very concerned with their privacy. Is this something that you are keeping in mind moving forward, or is this something you're not concerned with? Is this something that you want? Maybe we can start with Krupesh on this, since you're working at SignDesk. People are going to be giving in very personal information. They're going to be putting their signatures online, and that's a lot of vulnerability to show on a digital platform. So can you comment on this? Can you start with this?
Yeah, sure. Typically you will have this privacy and security discussions in the end in these panel discussions or any things like it's kind of housekeeping item. But I'm glad that we are starting off the discussion with the important things so that we can the proper framework. So this is actually a hard part of building AI business, right? Typically, as startups, founders, or even the companies, we are so busy solving a problem. The privacy, security, and then regulation, all these aspects will kind of take a backseat until when it's really absolutely necessary to address them. So it is quite important since we are a RegTech company. We have seen it from both sides, from the technology as well as from the regulation side. So before I talk about the Indian privacy laws and the GDPR, just a couple of points about in general the data, right? So we're talking about three things. If you are a company for adding AI capabilities, or if you are building an AI product, so the first problem is lack of data. That you don't have data, that is a major problem. And then once you have data, then the second problem is how do you protect the data, which is the security of the data. I think recently we had a credit card theft in the country, and it was a major issue. So how do you make sure that you secure the data? And the third part is like how do you secure yourself so that if it's whether it's the privacy issues or a bad PR or the data is stolen, your company's reputation is at stake. So from all these points, I think that the data, the privacy and the security aspects should be at the forefront of any the AI thing that we're building. So with respect to protecting the data, right? The data privacy. The security part that's somewhat easier to solve. Typically, what happens? So there are a couple of incidents that happened with Aadhaar also, and then. Basically the data was not treated with utmost respect. So I think these days now the databases have come out with features where by default you can enable encryption, so that even if your data is stolen, they can't really make much out of it. So I think this is now that the technology is at a stage where some of the data security aspects can be taken care of with little effort, with little planning. That is something I think the AI startups is they should pay attention if you're building an AI business. Now, with respect to regulation and the privacy aspects, right? So whether it's AI, IoT, or if you're traditional analytics or any other business, this is a major concern. And in India, we did not have our own privacy laws, but now things are rapidly changing. In fact, since we are in the RegTech space, the regulation changes so often. We had to literally rebuild the product twice a year. That is the kind of regulation and regulatory changes that is happening right now. So same thing is happening with the data privacy laws in India. We used to have like a European, the GDPR, right? That used to be the kind of gold standard. So if you comply with GDPR, then it's so stringent that you are in compliance with the laws of any other country. But now I think the Indian privacy laws, the data protection bill has gone one step ahead. So if you're compliant with the data protection law, probably it's much above the GDPR level. So I think it's going to happen pretty soon. I'll just give a quick 1 minute recap on what is in terms of data privacy, how different is it from GDPR, because GDPR are the normal, regular, the standards that we have been following, so that you will have a benchmark, right? So in terms of, there's one key difference with respect to typically your data privacy laws and what is India is doing, which is going to be the law in the next 6 to 8 months, I presume, is the data localization requirement. So basically anything that is your critical data, which is your the critical personal data, has to be stored in India. So that is something different, and even the GDPR doesn't have this kind of requirement. So if you are building an AI, the business, definitely this is something you want to pay attention to, because it becomes a challenge later to segregate the data and then store it elsewhere. And the one thing that the good part about the Indian privacy laws and GDPR everywhere is that as long as you anonymize the data, right, you sanitize the data and don't store private information, even if it is required for your analytics. If you anonymize the data and store it, I think you're good. So I think these are the basic things. If you can take care of it, you're good to go with respect to the privacy. Basically, I'm talking about the basic security aspects, and with respect to privacy, you need to anonymize the data, and then you need to secure the data, and then make sure that the storage aspects are taken care of.
So it's good to know that our information will stay out of the hands of the Russians. That's definitely a good feeling. Rajesh, can you tell us a little bit about how or why enterprises IoT data should be processed, or how it should be processed?
Sure. As Krupesh rightly said, data collection is very important. That's what the IoT does. IoT is embedded in various machinery, various devices that process the industrial manufacturing or logistics or packaging or delivery process. But at each of those points, it keeps collecting that data. That could be about within the machinery. What's the RPM? What's the quality of the product produced at that time? What's the amount and quantity of the product? What's the outside weather was like? There are so many aspects or so many dimensions in which the data can be collected, and the data is collected using the IoT. Once that is collected, the data is used for two purposes. One, for immediate attention. Means if the quality of the product is going beyond or below the threshold, then you have to take some immediate action. So that is something which we have to process in real time. So you have to put that IoT data, once it comes to either hub, central hub, or otherwise, you have to put the data under certain checks. Is this data appropriate according to my thresholds? So that is called as event processing. Now, this event processing could be critical. If the product is totally bad, then it has to be addressed very first. Something maybe it can be dealt with in two ways. One, you automatically trigger the next mechanical process, means switch off that machine or switch off that process, or increase certain raw material quality, whatever. So that could be automated. That is one way of handling that, or sending out the operator manually so that he can manually handle the situation. So these are both under the event processing. Now, the severity of the change in the signals, so that can make the whole process very complicated. That's called as complex event processing, where high-level things have to be dealt with immediately, and then there can be next level, next priority things as well. Now, so that is one aspect, real-time aspect. Once you collect this data, see, once you start collecting data using IoT, the immediate thing that happens is you start collecting huge amount of data. That's a problem as well, which the big data systems solve those problems. But that data is a treasure for that organization, for that enterprise. They can analyze under which conditions, which circumstances, my product quality is the best. It's called as the golden slot, or so we have certain names to figure out when is that my most optimum outcome is reached. Means when I have my least, what's the temperature, what's the RPM, so when is that when I reach my optimum? So that's how you can start tuning your machinery, tuning your systems to work under that condition. So that is done using an analysis. But for that, you need to have historic large amount of data. So for that processing, we put the data into something called as an OLAP system. OLAP system is a multi-dimensional, multi-level aggregation system. So you have all factors brought in, all levels calculated, and then you can see which is my best time versus worst time, and so on. So that is so you need to have historic data persisted to achieve this OLAP analysis. Now, another third benefit of collecting this data and doing this kind of OLAP analysis is that now once you solve your known problem, so you know that, okay, this is my problem, so I created a solution for solving that problem. Now you can experiment, you can start exploring new ways of what is much more there inside of my data. So even sitting at a 30,000 feet kind of a view, you can drill down into, because IoT has given you the data of every spin of your certain machinery. It's so much detailed data. You can drill down into certain level where you want to see what is there next. A couple of examples. After solving the sensor kind of a problem I mentioned in the data warehouse. So now that company tried what is the amount of power do I need to buy in the next week or the next month for my optimal temperature control. Means I can predict certain things based on my historic data, and I can buy that in advance so that I can save my money. That's one thing. And then I was also talking about the innovative things that are happening in India, that if certain motor vehicle parts which are not associated or pre-built with the computers that come within the vehicle. Now in India, the innovation is that, okay, we can associate, we can create the new set of sensors to check the wear and tear of the tires, the oil level, and so on. So instead of taking out the vehicle out of the trip for 7-8 days for servicing, they are now establishing service centers on the way of the route, and wherever that right appropriate time comes, so there that servicing happens. So these level innovation are happening, and so this is happening because of they started experimenting as to what new things I can do with this data.
All right, that's quite interesting. So we're talking about really collecting a lot of data, and we also have support from the government, which is great. What I would like to know is, are we as a country, as a nation, are we using this technology to its highest potential while also keeping in mind, some, people's privacy, these issues related with, putting your information on a big platform? Suhale, would you like to comment on that?
Sure. So, from an India perspective, as with everything, is very complicated. So you can't really say generally. Based on our experience, if we bucket, users of AI into various buckets, of course, you have the consumer angle. Consumers can't immediately use AI. They're more like given tools or given AI recommendations, but it's mainly the businesses. If you look at business, on the business side, you have large MNCs and you have captives of overseas companies who are operating out of India. Now they are using AI for their global operations. They're using India as a bed of innovation. A lot of experimentation is happening in India, and models are being built in India. They've been deployed in India. A lot of the large MNCs on the FMCG space, on the technology space, are actually building AI platforms and first testing them in the Indian market. And then if it's successful, they're replicating that globally, because one advantage of AI is that it's very scalable. So if you make it for one use case or one business or one case study, you can easily replicate that much more than you could with traditional models. So that's number one. Number two, you have startups and funded companies in India. Not only the Flipkarts of the world, but the thousands of other startups which are getting capital. And it's literally a requirement now that if you're a funded startup, you need an analytics person or you need an analytics team, because the value of analytics is very well appreciated by more sophisticated, investors and startups who realize that, when you're competing, one of the key differentiators is how you're able to use the data that you collect. And that's the second bucket of, a lot of activity that we're seeing in the startup ecosystem. The third is your large family-owned or traditional Indian businesses, the Reliances, the Tata Groups, Godreges of the world, who are now also embracing AI. Now they're forced to do that because of competition, or it's just it's a cool thing, so they set up this large team, but they're doing it. The good thing is that they're doing it. So 2 years ago, it was just a hot buzzword in India, but now actually on the ground, we are seeing corporates embedding AI in what they do, whether it's robotic process automation, whether it's core AI, or whether it's applications on the consumer side through digital interfaces and through IoT, like Rajesh talked about. So all of that. So that's on the corporate side. Of course, on the consumer side, I think it's taken for granted now. That Avneet talked about TVs. It's taken for granted now that if I have an Alexa device or a Google Home or any other Siri, I can ask it anything I want to. Yesterday I was with my son and we asked what's the age of one of the cricketers, and Siri replied in a very American accent, which was very funny to hear. But you can get everything at your fingertips on the consumer side. So I think that's now just a part of life, and all of us are going to start using AI, whether we know it or not. When we go to a shopping mall, we'll get messages from shops based on how they perceive us, how they see us, and what we're likely to buy. So those are all engines of AI working on the back end underneath it. So yeah.
Yes. And it's like you said, there's a lot of room for experimentation. There's a lot of room for potential. I mean, it's a big industry. And, keeping that in mind, Avneet, could you tell us a little bit about the future of this technology? I mean, where do we see the most growth? Where are we seeing the most demand? You're in the business of, LED TVs, and like Suhale just mentioned, like people are just expecting to have all this at their fingertips and they're almost taking this for granted. So what can you tell us about that?
I'll just start with Suhale's, as he mentioned that it was American accent. I think soon in your Kodak television, you will see Indian accent also, and maybe 7 different other Indian languages that we are working on. So I think then the regional languages also coming in a very big manner. But I'll just tell you really brief, interesting facts about AI first, and then I'll just speak about future. You'll be really surprised to know in 1957, first meeting of AI happened in US. But it never, exploded, or there was no disruption. And one of the basic reasons was data. There was no, data was not in an applicable manner that it was collected. It was only through your Google, your social media, Instagrams of the world, Facebook. And the key enabler was your tablets and smartphone. And therefore, these data was given to your computer, and that was they did their analytics, and then this AI started building, and now it's a very hot topic. And therefore, for our AI, the key enabler is assistant, and there are more than 300 million commands that have been there in the television. So from weather to live scores to any new songs that you want to hear, everything just and now the new technology that's far field, you don't need a remote control also. It's just so as I mentioned earlier, your voice will be your new UI. You don't need to go anywhere. Just sit in front of the television. You want to switch on the TV. You want to volume up, volume down, everything through your voice. Now coming back to the future, what will be the key ecosystems in the future? I think one of the most disruptive technology, and this was, I would say it's a baby AI disruption that has happened. The biggest disruption will happen when 5G will be there. India is, really lacking right now in 5G because the only first official testing was happened by Airtel a week back, and we haven't seen that much of testing. But in terms of AI, in terms of collecting more data, and one of the, as I mentioned, that the largest screen of your home will be the key enabler to all your smart home devices. It starts from starts from your electric vehicle. You will be charging your vehicle through your television. You will be getting everything. You can stop your, when it is full charge, you can stop it. In terms of all your appliances will be connected. Plus, as you know, because of this pandemic, you're not really interacting with people. This will be your new family member, as we call it. In the morning, your biggest screen will be in your office, work from home, and that too, you don't need a remote. If you have a mail, I'll just open my Google Calendar, join me for 3:30 p.m. Meeting. I'll be joined. Nothing is you. You want to mute it, you want to switch off your video, everything will be there with your voice commands. After that, in the evening, this will be your entertainment partner. Now, OTT versus AI. You'll be very surprised to know about 80 minutes in 2 days, every consumer wastes on the screen surfing what they exactly wants, because there's so much of content that's available now. Now, through this AI and Google Android TV that's coming up, the kind of nature of your content that's there'll be such high recommendations that you will start watching, and these recommendations will not be repeated. And it will be right now, for example, Netflix has its own recommendation, Prime has its own recommendation, Hotstar has its own recommendation. But Google Android TV will integrate all the content, whatever apps that you have downloaded, and through that, it will include all the live matches, news channels, everything. So whatever you want to see, one will not surf more. Whatever you like, you will be able to click on that particular channel and you will be watching it.
Yes, and it's sorry,
please.
continue.
No, please go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, no, it's interesting that you're saying that it's almost going to be like a family member for us. And once you introduce more regional languages, we will have even more dependency on this, and maybe we'll even see people coming from different parts of India, entrepreneurs coming from different regions who are more aware of the problems that need to be solved in their particular regions. And that's great because we will have more entrepreneurs in this field. So just like I think we should, please, as a closing remarks, maybe
just
you can...
want to add one more thing. It's a very interesting thing that we are now witnessing. Normally, every time in India, we always talk about this millennials and its technology is all about youth. I think AI is all about, from age, from 45 and above. It is really helping. We have seen our consumer base have really increased when Assistant was launched. As a lot of, age group above 50, they don't know how to surf basically in the net just by Assistant. It is a very user-friendly technology. So it's not just helping, age group below 45. I think above 45 is also where everybody is, access to this technology.
Oh, absolutely. Like from my own personal experience, I can tell that before there was a time when you would buy the cheapest phone for your grandparents, but now I would want my parents to have the latest models because I know that they will help them the most. They can get the most use out of it, and I myself don't need that kind of assistance. And also not just like aged people, but also disabled people. People with disability. Like there's so much support in technology for them, and that's why I think it's also great that once the regional languages are also included, we can have more people coming from areas and telling us about more issues that can be solved using technology, using AI. So again, in closing remarks, what are some comments that you would like to make that you probably didn't get a chance to? And what kind of advice can you give for entrepreneurs looking to explore the potential of AIs and IoTs and machine learning? And where is the potential? Where is the potential and the demand for more investors, for more innovation in this field? Maybe you can start with Avneet. Actually,
yeah, I feel there are a couple of things I want to touch base on. A couple of things. First is privacy. We didn't have any laws. India was not at all strict. In different platforms, I've been very vocal. All the Chinese mobile companies came into the country. They have stolen our data. And it was quite visible after whatever happened during the pandemic. Government banned those applications. Why these application was banned? These were banned because there was something wrong that government has found, and that's what I was saying from last 4 years. And we need to have a very strict laws. To know, my wife doesn't know where I am, but Google knows where I am. So they have all the information. We need to give limited, access and maximum privacy to the consumers. Second question, where we are landing up. We are really proud. About 5 years back, we never thought that we'll be reaching over here. We have developed Android television in India. We have manufactured. It's a complete backward integration that we have done. I think the global investors are now very keen on working with developing and manufacturing too. Otherwise, it used to be back-end or development. But this is a product that has completely integrated in India. So the future lies. The investors are very confident, and I see a very bright future. And the only thing is that Indian government needs to have long-term policies, and therefore which is conducive for young entrepreneurs.
Thank you. Krupesh, could you also answer?
Sure. Yeah. Just one quick point about about the advice to startups, and then anyone who is building business out of this, the AI, the new wave of technology. So I'll make a bold prediction that AI is going to be a commodity. So the opportunity lies in for entrepreneurs to commoditize this AI so that all businesses can use the AI capabilities. See, in the early 2000s, if you are a business, and then if you want to be credible, you need to have maybe a phone number, a landline. But later on, it becomes so that you need to have a website, right? And then afterwards, you need to have a social presence, Facebook, Twitter, other places. And so something like this is going to happen. I mean, now actually it's a technology, right? Every business must have some technology, starting with computers or systems. Now it's going to go. I think AI is going to become part of everybody's the life. That AI is essentially going to become a commodity technology. We're talking about Dukan apps, where even the street vendors and then the small time vendors also have access to the technology, where they can track the second segment the customers, and they can track the lifetime value of customers, all of that. So it's going to be available to everyone. So that is one thing that's a huge opportunity for our entrepreneurs, is to take AI to all to the places where you haven't thought about. Now that the big data problem is solved by the large companies, you don't really need to develop your own algorithm. You can use some of the readily available algorithms, but just add some add the business elements to it, and then adapt it so that you integrate with the existing system, and then basically you AI enable your existing products and technologies. So I feel that's a huge opportunity, and then especially in India, should definitely make the best use of it.
Great, thank you. Rajesh?
Two suggestions from my side. One, with respect to data protection, if you are building a company, ensure that from the beginning you comply with the laws, whichever, GDPR or any law, because one of the important aspects of such laws are, if your customer, if they are supposed to be claiming data security compliant, GDPR compliant, for example, then vendor will also have to be GDPR compliant. So that's the ecosystem, that's the aspect we have to understand. If you want to be in this ecosystem, so you have to be compliant. So whatever systems you build, you ensure that you're compliant from the beginning. That's one of my suggestions. Second, government is trying a lot of things in bringing in IoT, as a consumer, as a customer itself. If you observe, Fast Track is one of the very fast implemented IoT projects in the world. Technically, it takes its own political willingness to implement it fully, the delay that happened. But if government takes up anything, that's a huge size. We have seen smart city projects implementing smart dustbins. They're trying a lot of things. The traffic speed control things, or the e-challans that they're doing. They're attempting to do a lot of things. The registries have got now satellite images, in the place of things, other things. So if and then we have got this the Krushi, the soil test programs. The each land of a farmer, the test report or the soil test report is available on a Google map kind of a Map My India map thing. So everything, the scale of implementation, if Government of India takes it up, is huge. So you look for the projects that the government is looking, and that could be a very good start as well.
That is a good place to start. And very quickly, Suhale, we have unfortunately run out of time. So can you also tell us, your advice to entrepreneurs very quickly?
Sure. So firstly, I don't know, you said it's interesting, but for me, it's scary if AI is going to be my next family member. But very quickly in the digital. So I agree with Krupesh. It's not the time to make core AI. I think it's the time to use core AI, which other companies have already built. So if you're a new entrepreneur coming into the space, you want to use AI, make a difference, take core AI, which is already being built or already built, and build applications on top of that, which can be used by businesses or consumers at large. If you're a business viewer, then I would say, don't worry about making this grand analytics or AI plan at the moment. If you're not doing anything right now, think about it, make a 1-year program. We call it a roadmap. Make a 1-year roadmap. The first step of that roadmap is to gather data. You still have a year because you don't have enough data unless you have a year's worth of data. Gather the data for a year, but make that roadmap. And that's the first most important thing, because data in, data out, results in, results out. So I think that's the first step that I would recommend to anyone starting thinking about AI.
Thank you so much. Well, I guess we can sum it up as use AI as a commodity and try to comply with the existing rules, and make the most of this, because there's a lot of potential, and maybe look for solution that that the government is looking for. The problems that they're bringing up, and we